Welcome back to Equipped to Endure. I am Rusty. Today we have a charcuterie board of fire instruments to please you with. What we are going to do is build a fire kit that you can stick in your get-home bag, in your 72-hour kit, in your car, in your practice kit, whatever. We're going to make the perfect fire kit just for you. I've split this board into two things. One is actual fire starting or spark starting, and then we've got some different fire starting mediums, so tinders essentially. All right, so let's get started. The well-known lighter. Now this is how I like to keep mine. You just take an inner tube from a road bicycle, and then you squeak it onto the lighter. That's the hardest part of it. And then what you can do is cover it up just like you would an old sandwich bag. So you fold this over the top, hold down the inner part of it with your thumb, and then you just wrap it over the top. And what this does is it creates basically a watertight seam, and it helps prevent a little bit from that gas lever from getting depressed. So that's a nice little way to pack this, and you can put something through here and hang it off your bag or whatever you want to do. And in a pinch, also you can even cut off little pieces of this tube and use that for a tinder as well. So that's your lighter. Then you got matches, stormproof matches. I couldn't find any at the moment. I just, dipped this one in wax. That's obviously not the right one to do it. I typically don't reach for matches anyway, but there are good stormproof matches out there. As a matter of fact, Zippo put one out that I want to try out sometime soon. Okay, moving on. The ubiquitous ferro rod. These things are tried and true. You can get hundreds, if not thousands of fires out of them. These are very popular amongst bushcrafters, so that is one method. There's also the Fresnel lens, the Fresnel lens, or Fresnel lens, however you want to pronounce it, but it's essentially a magnifying lens that is the size of a credit card. I've also built some little kits before, little leather pouches with an actual real magnifying lens in there. I don't find, you can get high magnification ones that work better, but these work just fine as long as you got good sun. Then we've got a flint and steel kit. Now, these are not the only fire starting methods. There are other ones, but these are some of the most common, tried and true, and effective ones that you can stick in there. Now, moving on to tinders. We've got wet fire. There's all sorts of things like this. Wet fire, its claim to flame. There you go. Let's coin that term. Its claim to fame is that you can put it in water and it will still start. So that's wet fire. Here's fat wood. That's easy to use. These are probably my favorite because they are cheap and effective. You simply take a cotton makeup pad. This is what they look like. You can go pick these up at the dollar store, Walmart, whatever. And then you just submerge it in wax, pull it out, set it out on some wax paper. When it dries, you've got a phenomenal fire starter. I've lit one of these before. Oh goodness, this was almost 10 years ago I timed this, but I think one of these burned without any sort of accelerant like a lighter fluid caked into the fibers or anything. Just cotton and wax. I think one of these have burned for 17 or 19 minutes. Really effective. You've got magnesium scrapings that would come off something like one of these magnesium blocks with a ferro rod. And then finally char cloth. Now, these are not the only mediums. These are just ones that I like to put in my fire kits. And let's go ahead and talk about these a little bit, why they're in there. Now, Chris here. Do you want to say hi, Chris?
What's up, guys?
Turn that camera around. There you go. All right, Chris, tell us a little bit about the military PACE acronym and why that fits for a fire kit.
So, in communications and other forms of military adventure,
You got to look in the camera, man. Come on. They want to see your pretty face. There it is. I'll hold it. Here we go.
How about I just come over there?
That'll work. You do that. Here comes Chris. Take the stage.
Hey, guys. So, in communications and other forms of military adventuring, we use what's called a PACE plan, and it's primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. So, if we're making a fire kit, we're going to throw out a PACE plan for you where you have your primary source of fire, your alternate could be matches, ferro rod could be your contingency, and then your flint and steel could be your emergency. So Rusty's going to talk through a bunch of this stuff, but if you have 4 items that you're taking in your fire kit, you probably have your bases covered.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Chris. All right. Here's what I like. Lighter first. You know what? Yeah, it's cool to go out and start a bow drill fire. Yeah, really cool. But if you're in an actual emergency situation, you're not going to deal with that nonsense. Pull out the lighter, get your fire started, be done. If your lighter's out of fuel or if you don't like using the lighter for some reason, you've got matches. Again, I'm not as big a fan of those, but they're tried and true. They've worked for hundreds of years. Ferro rod, they're also great. Again, not a flame, but there are sparks. You still have to spend some time preparing your tinder bundle, all that to get a good fire going. Now, I am a big fan of Fresnel lens or Fresnel lens. Again, you can fight about it in the comments. I don't care how you pronounce it. One of these things, a credit card magnifying glass. I'm a big fan of this because the sun doesn't run out of lighter fluid. As long as it's bright outside, and as long as you have something like char cloth or something that you can ignite with the lower temp, you've got fire and you didn't use up any of your resources. So for me, if it's daylight, this is going to be my primary fire starting mechanism. Now, flint and steel. Some people may say, yeah, that's pioneer technique. That's not necessarily what you'd use in an emergency, but hear me out. Here's why I really like and think you should have a flint and steel in your kit, in your fire kit. So your ferro rod might run out. You might snap it. It might be hard to ignite, whatever. Your lighter will run out of fuel. It won't work any amount. And then you can still get sparks off of it when the lighter's out with the little flint in there, but eventually that's going to run out as well. Your matches, you got one use, you're done. So even if you got a kit full of matches, you've got 30, 40 ignitions, and then you're done. Now with solar, that's a little bit different, but again, it's really hard to start a fire unless you get really fine, super dry shavings that you're putting that sun into. But with a flint and steel kit, and with a tin that you make char cloth with, I've got a whole tin full of it right here. You can see that I've used that more than a time or two. If you've got char cloth, you've got perpetual fire because you can take natural materials, whether it's punky wood, whether you've got cotton bandanas, old clothes, denim, whatever, things that you find out in the woods, you can continue, or even charcoal scraps out of your fire. You can put that in your kit and you can use that to catch sparks and then start your fire. So that is why to house whatever your fire kit is in, and this is nothing new, most of you know this already, that's why I highly recommend some sort of tin. Altoid tins are convenient because you can go to Walmart, buy one for $1.50, whatever they run these days, and it serves the purpose. So I recommend that you build your fire kit in a Altoid tin or something similar. The round ones are kind of cool, but they're a little bit trickier to fit things in. So Altoid tin, right in the top flap is where I like to put my Fresnel lens. It takes up about that much room, and you got a wonderful perpetual fire source as long as the sun doesn't go out. If the sun goes out, guys, just have a party and give up because you're done. All right, so we're going to add our lighter in. We're going to add a ferro rod in. Now, on the ferro rod, let's make a point of this. A lot of people, particularly bushcrafters, like to have a ferro rod in a ferro rod loop that's sewn into their sheet. So I've got here, this is a Fiddleback Forge, of course, bushcrafter model that fits in the leather sheath. Here's another style. This one is a Abe Elias Diving Sparrow knife work. So this is one of his knives. This is the Northern Bushcraft model, I believe, or Borealis. No, that's right. I have another one that's the NBS. This one is the Boreal model. Also, it's got the loop for the fire steel. So let me actually show you another example. Also, one quick note, you know this, there's tons of different fire steels out there, or ferro rods, whatever you want to call them. This one, oh man, I've had this for about 10 years. It is a monster, and I mean, there's a lot of those that are popular now, the 1/2 inch by 6 inch or even 8 inch. But I mean, that's like carrying around a lead pipe. That thing is huge. Yes, it's effective, it works. This one had a little container. The kind of novelty of this is it had a hollow handle that you could stick something like a wet fire down in and have a pretty sure way to start fire. But this thing is so chunky. I mean, that's not going to fit even in your Altoid tin, or even if you rearrange the thing, it's going to fill up the whole thing. So, and then you've obviously got the magnesium block and the ferro rod. These are simple, cheap. You can get them on Amazon, a 5-pack of them for like $6 or $8. I don't even know what they run now. We'll put a link down in in the description for you. Anyway, so you can have the fire steel in the fire loop, or you know, if you don't like that style sheath, that's where you can put it in your bag, in your fire kit, whatever. All right, moving on. Where did my pointer go? There it is. Okay. So what we were talking about is we've got the Fresnel lens in here, which that may be your primary, or the lighter may be your primary. Now for the alternate, again, if you go matches, that could be your alternate, or if you like a fire steel or ferro rod, that can be your alternate. So we're covered there. Contingency, again, for me, The solar is more of a primary, but that may be your contingency. And then I think that you should put a fire steel and a piece of flint. Now flint, nice part about it is if you've got woods anywhere near you, anything like that, you can go out and find it. I think I found these out in a field in Montana like 30 years ago where there's just tons of agate and that kind of stuff all over the ground. Not that hard to find, pretty inexpensive to buy for steel now, or for a piece of flint. Now, here's another benefit of this. Not only will this throw sparks, let's see if I still got my skills, so we can throw sparks with that, but also these are sharp enough. Oh, let's just have a heyday and start doing this. These are sharp enough to where you can actually drive sparks off of your ferro rod. Oh, I shouldn't have done that inside. There you go. That's what magnesium looks like when it burns. And don't tell my wife about this. I'll try to clean it up before she sees it. So this is what black snow looks like. This is what you may see coming down from the sky after it all hits the fan. Anyway, so that's how magnesium burns, and you can scrape it with a piece of flint. That was a nice dramatic effect, was it not? We didn't even plan that. Okay, so flint, a striker that goes in there, and then you can put your assortment of different types of actual tinder or fire starter. Now, I like fat wood. Here's how I recommend using it. Let's see if I got something with a sharp spine on it. Here's my beat to death Mora that I've had for a long time. So here's what I like to do. You take the spine of your knife and you scrape off some of those fat wood shavings. Now, I'm going to go for the gold here and see if I can get even more of this going. Okay, you already saw me use the ferro rod for the magnesium, so let's just switch to something easy. Let's do a lighter for this, and you can see how this burns. So you can see that resin in there, just a little bit of shavings from that fat wood is pretty good. So if you get a whole pile of that in your tinder nest, get that going and you are good to go. So that resource right there, as long as you don't chew through it, like if you split this down and get only 3 fires out of it, you know, you're not being wise with the resource. You can get this to go a lot longer than that. Okay, char cloth. Here's what I like to do with char cloth. Now, you can learn a lot from ultralight backpackers. They shave off grams off anything they can. They will cut the tags off of their bags just to shave whatever that is, 1/3 of a gram. So this is tinfoil. Now, they love tinfoil because when they take out like their jet boil or their little stove, their little gas stove that they use, instead of bringing a big old clunky windscreen, they can even just use a little bit of tinfoil to wrap around the base to act as a windscreen for their little fuel canister and their stove. And what that does is it not only traps the heat, prevents the flame from blowing it out, but it warms the container up because it keeps that heat isolated and focused right around that cup or whatever it is that they're heating up. I like to have a piece of tin foil for many reasons. This is pretty versatile material. And I wrap several pieces of char cloth in tin foil to put in my kit. Again, you can do almost anything with tinfoil. You can make a little cup with it if you have to. It's a reflector, a signal device. You can use it as a windscreen. You can use it to contain other things, to keep something dry. I mean, super versatile. So I'll put that in the base. A little bit of fat wood. My striker or fire steel. Piece of flint. Char cloth's already in there. If you're going to put matches in there, let's wrap this lighter up again. So again, this is the tricky part. You wrap it over the top, put your thumb on the inside portion, and then just wrap it over the top. That fits nicely in there. This is my third that I like going to. So rather than putting the whole thing in, the whole disc in just like that, what I like to do is actually cut this into pieces. And then I got more uses out of this. They almost act like a little birthday candle. So now instead of using up that whole fire starter on one fire, I've got several, and you can take it even further where you can hold this like a candle, just fray up one of the edges enough to where you can get it started, where you expose some of those fibers, light that, and you can almost hold it like a candle until you get your little starting fire going. Then you can pull it out, damp it off, and then you got more uses out of it. So you can put a few of these in your fire kit. So now also when you're on the trail, anytime you see anything like loose or frayed bark or anything that you know, even look for limbs on pine trees that you're passing to see if you spot some fat wood. You can replenish your fire starting pieces in there as well as the char cloth. So that has 4 means of starting fire. It's got 3 ways or tinder options that are in there. And then the kit itself you can use to make char cloth in. And then the final piece, what I like to wrap this up on, is I take a Ranger band, which you can buy Ranger bands, or you can simply take an old inner tube from a bike tire and cut off pieces to make that. So to hold the kit together, because it often doesn't clamp shut, you just slip that inside a Ranger band and you are good to go. So that's a compact, perpetual fire kit that should get you through pretty much any emergency or even recreation if you're just going out and learning these wilderness survival skills or bushcraft. And that is all that you need. All right, so this is exactly why you have redundancy, or that PACE plan. Remember, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. So I love using the solar lens or the magnification lens, but it's overcast, so I cannot get a beam focused enough or hot enough to ignite my char cloth. So I got to switch to an alternate. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my kit, and we're gonna grab, just for funds, because I need to practice. Let's take a little piece of char cloth here, rip her off. Now here's how you do this with flint and steel. I'm gonna find a sharp edge that's gonna throw sparks. I'm gonna put it right here, and then you pinch it together. And then as you take your fire steel, you throw sparks on it. That should have caught. Ah, finally. It actually was caught. Okay, so in there, you can see how it's glowing. That was from the fire and steel. It's amazing how much heat that puts out. Okay. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make your own fire kit. If you've got great ideas or things that I didn't mention, please put them down in the comments. We learn from each other. There are a lot of tried and true methods in here, and it works well for me, but you may have better ideas that I would love to learn from as well. So with all that said, until next time, in Omnia Paratus.